question: why are these rich people getting away with acting like they don't have any money? Like right now, the big current event is the government cutting services and departments and employees through DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Um, and I'm just trying to understand, why is the US government broke? Like, why is there this like so-called insurmountable debt? Um, Someone must be stealing. Like, that's the only way that this makes sense. And that's what I've always thought. Now, I live in a red state, and I've heard this kind of rhetoric from Republican politicians before on the state level where I live, and they're always talking about, we got to balance the budget. We need to be fiscally responsible. But it goes on for years. I mean, it's ongoing for years, and they cut, spending and programs for years. It's like they never seem to get to the place where they consider themselves to be running efficiently and they're being fiscally responsible. And like, this is ongoing for years and years and years. And I'm just like, how is it that the United States government does not have any money? I mean, income is taxed. Um, Sales, that's on a state level. Usually sales are taxed, but just like, we're all taxed quite a bit. Um, if you go on The Price is Right and win something, that's taxed. If you inherit something, that's taxed. I mean, companies are taxed. I mean, there's taxes all over the place. So how are they then acting like they don't have any money? Like, I just really don't understand how it's possible without people stealing. And the same thing even with the states. I mean, I live in Missouri. There is a state sales tax here. There are state income taxes. How is it that they are claiming that they are broke and people are just accepting this? It's like, okay, if you're broke, how? Why? Someone must be stealing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And they just keep putting this out there. Like, I mean, it's been generations now they've been listening to this, and it's just like someone must be stealing. And right now I'm talking about the government, but even, in the private sector, for me, it started with like Kmart and Sears going out of business. And I was just like, excuse me, but how does Kmart not have any money? How does Sears not have any money? Now, for a long time, I will say Sears had the market on lock. Like, if you needed a new refrigerator, toaster, washing machine, whatever, the family went to Sears. I mean, it was just like in everyone's mentality. I mean, and like in the 80s, probably even the 90s too, there wasn't as much competition because there weren't all these stores like Lowe's, Home Depot. Where I live, there's Nebraska Furniture Mart. There was not as much competition. There wasn't Best Buy either. So I could understand there being less of a market share, maybe fewer stores, maybe smaller stores. But I'm like, how did Sears fumble, like being the OG? Like, how did they get to the point where they just had no money? I mean, Sears were all over the place. Same thing with Kmart. Kmart was all over the place. I mean, now Kmart had a bad reputation when I was a kid growing up. Like, if your school clothes or something came from Kmart, you were a little bit ashamed. Um, but still, like, everybody's mama was up in there, like, when back to school time came to get something. I mean, yeah, people were embarrassed by Kmart, but everybody was there. Like, everybody shopped at Kmart and then just acted like they didn't. So how did they then turn out to, oh no, we're bankrupt, we don't have any money? And again, when I was young, like a child, there was not as much competition, such as Target. Walmart really wasn't big like when I was a lot younger. But I feel like the OG always has an advantage. Like when I watch football and stuff, not so much now because like a lot of what I consider like to be like the OG quarterbacks have like retired and stuff. But I'll say like let's say 10 years ago, let's say there was a game, there was like a young quarterback and like the OG quarterback. Now I'm not a betting person, but I always would predict that the OG quarterback would win, and I was usually right. I was usually right. I mean, the OG just always has an advantage. So as you get older, remember that. Like, if you're an OG, you really have an advantage. People like to act like there isn't an advantage in being older, but there is. So I'm just like, how did Kmart fumble that? Someone has to be stealing. I mean, and like there have been all these retailers like Claire's, The Gap, like all these retailers that are in every single mall across America. I mean, okay, let's take The Gap for instance. They sell t-shirts and jeans predominantly, like that's what they're known for. The jeans are made overseas by people who are not paid well, and then they're sold in stores where the employees are not paid well. And then and the merchandise is not exactly cheap. So it's like, how are you not making money? It doesn't make sense. And again, there are hundreds of stores all over the place. Someone has to be stealing. They just have to be. Now, I know a lot of these CEOs are paid handsomely. And I just always wonder about that too, because I just feel like, okay, if you get the position of being the CEO of, like, let's say The Gap, what are you really doing? I mean, the company's been established, their brand's been established a very long time. Like, what are you doing? Really? If you didn't show up to work for a month, would anyone really even notice? I don't understand. So, yeah, they have to be stealing. That's the only way that this makes sense. And all these companies just keep talking about, oh, we're broke, we're restructuring this and that. All these red states, now the US government, everyone's like, oh, yeah, we need to be fiscally responsible. How do you not have money? And then some people are like, well, money needs to be balanced, just like you need to balance your household budget. My household budget has absolutely nothing to do with a multi-million dollar corporation or the government. Like, the numbers are not comparable. The way that we gain income is not comparable. So that comparison is just really just gaslighting and nonsense. And that's people like talking down to working people. It's like, well, let me put this down on your level so you can understand. But it's not the same. It's just foolish, just like really pretty insulting. So yeah, someone is stealing. Like, that's the only way that this makes any sense whatsoever. So now the big thing is Joann Fabrics is going under, which is really interesting because I've been hearing rumors about this like on the internet for a long time. And there is a Joann Fabric in the city where I live that was built not that long ago. It maybe 10 years. I don't really know. And that building, which is a huge building, was built for that store. So I'm very curious as to what's going to happen with that store, like the building. But then I've also heard rumors that that particular location is not going under. So yeah, it's just a mess. You have to wait and see. I don't care that much. I'm not invested that heavily in Joann Fabrics, but I'm just like, how is Joann Fabrics going out of business? Like, I don't understand. I mean, I can understand maybe closing some stores, maybe scaling down, maybe changing the merchandise or something. But it's just like, how is the whole thing going under? How do you have hundreds and hundreds of stores, yet you have no money? Where's the money going? Like, don't tell me you don't have any sales. And again, the merchandise is probably made overseas quite cheaply and then is sold stateside by retail clerks who don't make very much money. So where's your money going? It really, really makes absolutely no sense to me. So yeah, I mean, we all really need to letting stop letting people talk to us like we're stupid, because this doesn't make any sense. especially on this federal level, like, oh yeah, let's let's cut everything because, the United States doesn't have any money. We are living in the biggest economy in human history. Why are people acting like we don't have any money? Like, this does not make any sense. It legit does not make any sense. Okay, and part two. Now I'm thinking about Joanne Fabrics. Now, I own a sewing machine. I'm not an avid sewer. I mean, I know how to thread the machine. I made one um, project in my life, really, and that was making a COVID mask. Because when COVID first happened, I was like on the news and stuff, they were like, you can go out with a COVID mask. And I was like, where the heck am I supposed to get a mask? So funny when I think back. But I found like a little pattern on the internet for, making a mask. And so I went ahead and I made myself one. And this is how sweet I am. My boyfriend that I had at the time, I made him one and I made his son one. So I made three. So that was like something that I did like recently. Like when I was in high school, I had home ec, so I did some stuff then too. But anyway, I made me and my at the time boyfriend and his son COVID masks, and like I fixed a hole in a dress recently. But anyway, I said all that to say I know how to sew a little bit, but I don't know how to sew that much. So it'll just be interesting to see what happens with that um, industry, like the whole like at home do it yourself industry, because I almost have a theory. Because one time I was like, okay, I'm going to make myself a nightgown. And I figured I will make myself a nightgown just because, if it's a little bit sloppy, it won't matter. I'm just going to sleep in it just to kind of get some practice. And then I looked into, some patterns and like material and stuff like that. And here's the thing, it would still be a worthwhile project just kind of for fun, but it was kind of expensive. Like I don't remember how much the pattern was or like the material that I was kind of looking at. But whatever the cost was just for the materials for that project, I could easily find a nightgown, on a clearance rack somewhere for like a lot cheaper. So sometimes I feel like, my gosh, like why is it so expensive to like do certain things yourself? And I feel that way sometimes about groceries as well. Sometimes when you follow recipes and you like look at all these ingredients, it may not be something that you have on hand all the time. You buy it for that recipe. Like after a while, you're like, well, my goodness, I probably could have just went out and gotten this. And I almost wonder if, that's by design. Like, is that why, certain things are just kind of expensive? So, yeah, I wonder. And let me complete that thought there. Sometimes I wonder if certain like groceries, like right now I haven't gone and shopped for eggs, but evidently eggs are kind of expensive. But eggs are an ingredient in a lot of things. So it's like, are the materials being made more expensive just to kind of discourage doing things yourself at home? So then you would be kind of reliant on, going out to eat and stuff like that. Because I've heard people say that before. Like by the time you go and buy this, that, and the other, you could have just went to a restaurant and ordered it. And they're right. Just kind of depends on if you want to cook or not. But anyway, I wonder because you have to kind of think that at this point there's all these people that are working together. Capitalism isn't a bad system theoretically, because theoretically businesses are all supposed to be competing for the consumer and the consumer is supposed to win, but that's not really what's happening. Like there's a lot of like consultants and such that go from company to company to company and advise people, and there's a lot of politics that are arm in arm with the private sector. And people, a lot of people elected Trump because he's a business person. I have no idea why people thought that that was a good idea. I think it was very, very foolish. But yeah, there's all these people just kind of like working together. at this point, and they just, the goal is to extract as much as they possibly can from the population, from working people, and offer as little as possible. So yeah, that's just something that I just don't understand, and it's been on my mind for a long time, is why on earth are people accepting that government entities and these large companies don't have any money? And again, I remember some years ago, probably in the early 2000s, when the Fight for 15 came about, and people were like, they don't deserve that much. It doesn't matter. Like, these companies, they have the money, even though, like, fast food restaurants, most of them are franchises with an individual owner. They have a lot of money. I mean, and they want to scream poverty, but $15 an hour, that's still not a very high wage. So I don't understand why people are just buying into this nonsense. But on the flip side of that, people like to say things like, oh, well, why should this person get, government assistance when their, nails are done, or they wear expensive shoes or whatever? Here's another thing: people who have no style need to stop trying to evaluate other people's style, because you really don't need a whole lot of money when you have like style. And that's true. That's true. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of celebrities don't understand that. But, it's just people are pocket watching the wrong people. And with that, I will end this. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.